Hi there everyone, this is Ashley with Marshflower Studio. In this video I am going to be making one of my little fishes. So I've seen quite a few vendors at this point who do a mystery bag or blind ball gumball machine kind of thing in their booths, and it was driving a lot of customers their way. So I've decided to join in this trend, as we'll say, and kind of create my own little blind bag. Typically they are $5, and they have one of a variety of little critters inside of them. You can also put discounts inside of them. I typically do $5 towards any other purchase, so they could get another ball, or they could put it towards anything else that I have with me that day. And of course you could do any amount that you want to do. You could do a % off of anything else they want to purchase that day. It just kind of helps to drive sales a little bit more when you're at events. So that's why I started doing them, and I found a ton of these little critters, all different kinds of animals that are crazy fast and easy to make. I don't remember who makes them, but there's a lady on Etsy that has Critterlings. You can get bulk packs that have, I think, 10 or 15 different patterns in them of all these little things to make. But there wasn't a fish. And because I live in coastal Georgia, I do really well with lots of fish things, starfish, anything ocean related. So I based these guys kind of loosely on that idea of these tiny little fast, easy to make fish. You can use any type of yarn that you're comfortable with. If you want it to be a smaller item, kind of like these guys, stick to the cotton and the acrylic yarns. This one is the same pattern. He's only a little bit bigger than the other guys, but he is a velvet. So he was made with this guy. And it is listed as a bulky yarn. It is not bulky like the blanket yarns. All right. And they even recommend a 4.5 millimeter hook. Typically with this yarn, I end up using a 5 millimeter hook just because using a 4.5 seemed a little too small for me. But I like to have my stitches nice and tight. So it's kind of up to you as far as your tension, the yarn you use, all that good stuff. But you can make them bigger just by using a thicker yarn and a larger hook. These little guys over here, acrylic yarn, 100% cotton. The little ones like this, I use 10 millimeter eyes for these guys. My fuzzy fish has 12 millimeter eyes. So you can kind of switch up that as well, depending on the yarn that you use and how big or small you want those eyes to be. You will need, whichever hook you're going to be using. I'm using a 4 millimeter hook for my acrylic yarn for the video. You will need a yarn needle for kind of finishing him off, some scissors, of course, and if you have trouble stuffing, you may want a stuffing stick. Just an option. We'll set these guys out of the way for 1 second. The last thing I do want to say before I get started, these are a no-sew or low-sew option. So the fins and the tail are made as we work the fish, and then the dorsal fin, you can do a surface crochet to attach, or you can make it separate and sew it on after, whichever way you're more comfortable. But we'll get started. For my video fish, I'm going to be using one of the I Love This yarns, and this one is called Flapper Girl. So I love using the variegated yarn for little projects like this because it just gives them so much more interest, right? Especially with, little fish. can't go wrong with colorful yarn. All right, so I leave a little bit longer of a tail to begin with because I will use this to tie off the end of my fish. If you don't like doing that, then you don't have to worry about a longer tail. I know some people like their tail to be super short. We're going to do a magic circle. However you do a magic circle is fine, or you can do a chain 2 and then work in that second chain from your hook. So we're going to have 4 single crochets in our circle here. 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to pull that tight. And one of the things that I do whenever I am kind of creating this lip, so for this it is the mouth of the pufferfish. You kind of see that ring around there. You can see it on this one too. Right around that magic circle, it's got a little ring for the mouth. I'm going to do a slip stitch into that next stitch, and that will just kind of visually close off that ring so that you don't have a weird gap on the bottom, or kind of where it spirals into the next row, you'll have that open space. So I'm going to treat that like it was my last stitch. And for this next row, we're going to do an increase and then a single crochet, an increase and a single crochet. So it'll take us from 4 to 6. And we're doing these in the back loop so that it makes that little ring. So there's 1, 2. And moving over, we'll have 3. Next stitch, 4, 5. And then the last stitch is 6. So we'll pop our little mouth forward there, and you've got a nice little ring to kind of create that mouth on the very end there. Our next row is 6 increases, so we'll take our stitch count to 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. So our next row, we're just doing an increase and single crochet to take our stitch count to 18. So 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, 17, 18. All right, from here, we're doing 2 rows of single crochet. So 2 rows of 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. All right, one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, and 18. All right. So at this point, our next row, we're going to add those side fins. So we're going to do 2 single crochets, and then we're going to do front loop only with a slip stitch, and then a chain 3. You're going to skip the first chain, and that second chain you're going to do a half double, and then in the third chain you're going to do a single, and then you're going to slip stitch back into that front loop to finish the fin. Now we're going to have 11 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Again, front loop only. You're going to go under and slip stitch, chain 3. In the second chain from the hook, you're going to do a half double, and then in the next, a single, and then slip stitch back into that front loop. And we're going to have 3 more single crochets to finish the row. Alrighty. And our next 2 rows are going to be single crochet 18. In this next one we need to be careful to work in the back loop behind where we made those fins. So to start with, we're going to have 2 single crochets. I'm going to move that fin forward and come and grab the back loop from that previous row to make my stitch. That's 3. And then I'm going to come up to the side, and you don't want to work into the slip stitch that you made. You want to work into that next stitch. So make sure that you are staying on track. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, again back loop, 15, 16, 17, and 18. All right, so our next row is just a regular 18 single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. All right, this is where I like to pop my eyes in place. And these are going to go between like 3 and 4. Or you could even put them between 4 and 5, depending on your personal preference, or if you have a color change. All right, these are between 4 and 5. I like to put them if I have a color change where the color changes. So I'm going to flip him a little inside out, pop the backs on these. Flip him back right side out. You just want to make sure before you pop those backs on that you like where the eyes are in, relation to where the fins are. And for our next row, we're going to have a single crochet and decrease, so we're taking our stitch count down to 12. So 1, decrease on 2, 3, decrease 4, 5, decrease on 6, 7, decrease on 8, 9, decrease for 10, 11, decrease for 12. All right, our next row is going to be another single crochet and decrease, and it's going to take us down to 8 stitches. So 1, decrease on 2, 3, decrease on 4, 5, decrease on 6, 7, and decrease on 8. Pull my loop out a little bit so I can stuff his bum. Well, with most of these little guys, it doesn't take a lot. Kind of depends on if you want your fish to be nice and poofy and fat, or if you want them to be a little more squishy. And honestly, most people that I've talked to prefer the more squishy. Sometimes I have to explain that I stuff them a little firmer because as they are played with and wiggled around, that stuffing will deflate some. All right. So we're going to have an incompleted row of sorts here. We're going to do 2 decreases. And this may change depending on your tension and whether you're a yarn over or a yarn under. I'm going to do a slip stitch to kind of finish here. When you finish, you want your last stitch to kind of be in the middle of the back because we're going to turn him sideways to create that tail. All right, so from my slip stitch, I'm going to go through the next stitch, and then I'm going to go through the back side to kind of close up his butt. I'm going to do a slip stitch to pull through. At the same time we make the tail, we're closing him up. So I'm going to do 5 single crochets. In the second from the hook, we're going to do a double crochet. And we're going to do 2 half doubles. There's half double 1, next stitch down, half double 2, and then a single crochet at the bottom. And then we're going to go into the next stitch from the body. We're going to go through both sides again, kind of pull through, make a little slip stitch there, and another chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, second chain from the hook, we're going to do a double crochet. And we're going to do 2 half doubles, half 1, next stitch, half double, and then the last stitch, a single crochet, and then I'm going to do another slip stitch down here into the bottom of where we closed off his body. My string is fighting me in the way here. So another little slip stitch to kind of finish that off. We'll cut the yarn and pull it through. And I like to kind of make a little square knot whenever I'm tying something off. So I use both of my end pieces. I'm just poking this one through so that they're pretty much in the same spot. And I can tie my knot so that it's in a good spot for me to just pull it through the body. Or if you prefer, you can just weave in your ends. Knowing how my kids play with things, I prefer to have the knot. So there's our little fish body all finished. And then we'll make his little dorsal fin. So I'm going to be sewing it or crocheting it onto this fish because it's nice and easy. You could do a chain 4 and then just work your way back with single crochets, cut it off and sew it to his back. Like I said, this is a pretty easy one to do. So you want to pick one of the stitches. I do with a needle so it's easier to see without my big fingers in the way. You want to pick one of the stitches that's about halfway between the eyes and in that row kind of just behind the eyes. So I'm going to pick this guy right here as my starting point. And you can do around the post or you can do around that top section, depending on, like I said, how you like to work. So I'm going to do a slip stitch in the first one here. And the next one, I'm actually going to go over the top part, pull up a loop to create a single crochet. And in the next one, I'm going to do the same thing, single crochet. And then the last one, just make sure that you are angled towards the tail the whole time. I usually end up kind of going sideways. I'm going to do a chain 1 to turn. And then I'm just going to do single crochets back, up, and then when I get to that last one that was a slip stitch, I'm going to do the slip stitch again. So this very front part of his fin is still really low, and it can be difficult to get your hook in there, especially if you're like me and you make your stitches really tight, forgetting that you have to go back into them. All right, so I got that pulled through. We'll cut off our yarn, pull it all the way out. Again, I'm just going to tie this in a little slip knot, slip knot, square knot, some kind of knot. And then if my yarn will cooperate with my needle, poke this down through. Make sure we get the knot pulled into the body. And there is our finished little fish. Blurp, blurp, blurp. There are different ways that you can kind of personalize your little fishes. I've seen a bunch of different patterns where instead of just doing regular single crochets, they do back loop only. There's some other different ways you can add texture to your fish to make it a little more scale-like if you want. But these cute little fast fish are easy to make. I like them. These were actually made with the same yarn, just different parts of the color variations. So you can get lots of variety using this kind of yarn, lots of different little fish, so they're all super unique. If you like making the fish, give the video a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, do that so you can see all of the other new videos as they get posted, get notifications for those. Check out some of the other videos that are already posted for the channel. I have a ridiculous number of videos on little things to make just like these. So if you like these guys, definitely check out the other ones. Pretty much all of the videos that are posted are projects that'll take you 30 minutes to an hour depending on how fast you can crochet. So thanks for watching and happy hooking, crochet nerds!